Alright everyone, Cowboy Trades here and welcome back to the channel for another update on Bitcoin. So, Bitcoin is pumping, leaving price gaps behind it in the dust. What is going on right now? How can we trade these markets? And what is the next move for Bitcoin? Let's discuss all of this and more. Before we do dive into the TA for today, you may have not heard this, but the US government quite recently came out and just guaranteed that all of the money that was trapped within Silicon Valley Bank is going to be available today on Monday. Now, when this news came out, stock market futures pumped. They have since reversed their gains and they are now nuking back down to the downside. However, we are seeing a divergence where Bitcoin is continuing this pump up about 12% in the past few days or so. So what is going on with this divergence? Well, let's dive into all of this, starting off with the lower time frames, and then we'll talk about my new Bitcoin trades. So this is a chart that I shared over on Twitter. Let me run you through this. Let me get rid of the volume for a second and just focus on what's going on our screen right here. So you can see, obviously, quite recently, we were forming this uptrend, held it as support, and now you can see since this reversal we've broken back down to the downside and we are currently retesting this. This retest is very crystal clear over on the weekly time frame where you can see that we're currently stuck underneath 22,600, which is where this resistance starts to come into play. Over on the weekly time frame. On the daily, you're looking at around about 22,400. In accordance to this as well, you can see if we do look at the left side of the screen and look at the VPVR, we're looking at the volume that's been traded in this quite recent range. You can see there is a big cluster of volume right here where we spent a lot of time trading. We had a lot of buy orders, a lot of sell orders, a lot of longs, a lot of shorts in the market. And of course, market makers, the market has pushed us back into this big cluster of liquidity. Now, you can actually see the POC, the point of control, is right here. The most amount of liquidity trapped in this market is currently sitting up at 23,100. So is it possible that we pump up to 23,100 before having that reversal back to the markets? Considering we're sitting right at 23,000 right now, it does seem plausible. We can push up a little bit further. 23,300 is really where this volume profile starts to taper off into the abyss. Now, with this as well, if we do clear up the chart very quickly, just redraw this trend line on, you can see that we're currently getting squished just above the EMA ribbons. Now, these EMA ribbons are getting extremely tight, indicative that a big move is going to come for the markets very, very soon. However, talking about big moves, I do think this is unlikely that we're going to push up too much further. I think a sharp reversal is the most likely course of action right now. You can actually see if we do look at the bottom of the screen, I'll just show you on a few different exchanges, but volume is kind of stepping to the downside right now. Now, the bullish volume that we've got is definitely better than we've had for the past couple of weeks or so. However, going from exchange to exchange, you can see day over day over day, the volume is slightly coming back down to the downside right now. You can see we had huge volume stepping in at the start of this rally, and now it's kind of just falling down and we are losing momentum a little bit. If we come over to the retail wallets as well, you can see, they are buying right now, but there hasn't been a sharp increase in the retail wallets. There's not a sharp uptick in volume right now supporting this rally. What this rally really is at this moment in time is over on the Bitcoin balances on exchanges. There has been a significant withdrawal from the Bitcoin balances on exchanges, not necessarily supported by new purchases, new wallet sizes increasing, more volume stepping in the market, etc., etc. So this does seem like a little bit of a fool's rally. And of course, we will also move on a little bit later on in this video to talk about the divergence happening in the SP 500 right now and why it's unlikely that Bitcoin continues too much further. So over on this chart, you can see a few different reasons. Coming over to the daily time frame, we are kind of sitting right around these EMA ribbons, deciding whether we're going to get continuation or not. We're coming right into the point of control. We're coming right into this big area of previous data traded. We haven't quite hit the price target of this big M pattern that we previously talked about. And also, we will talk about how this could be potentially another uptick before that next move back down for the BART pattern. So this M pattern still looking pretty valid, especially if we move up to the candle body closes for this move. If we look at the candle body closes, you can see we might be running into another area of resistance in these markets right now, once again, right around that 23,100 level. So like we said, not a huge uptick in terms of volume, not a lot of people buying into this market right now. This is mainly, in my opinion, a rally caused by the recent news in the markets that the US will be guaranteeing all of these Silicon Valley deposits. And a lot of people are talking about, hey, is quantitative easing coming back? And this is why a lot of people are kind of bullish on Bitcoin right now. This is a very, very big topic. What's happening in the SP 500, bank bailouts, comparisons to 2008, quantitative easing returning. I'm going to make a separate video about this, so stay tuned for that. Let's just focus on Bitcoin for today's video, or at least in this video. Now, in terms of how this is fared for our divergence, now, you can actually see that with this most recent pump back up to the upside, this has actually strengthened our regular bearish divergence. Now, in terms of the price action, you can still see that we've got the same tops playing out in this market structure, strengthening this bearish divergence. And for the RSI, it's been a while since we've pushed up. Once again, I don't think that we're going to come back up to the top of this trend line. It is possible. Of course, this is Bitcoin. I'm personally not predicting it though. But you can see the RSI downtrend is continuing at this moment in time. We've once again run kind of right into this this trend line. Bear in mind, we don't really have a linear downtrend to define this trend at this moment in time. So I'm kind of using a curvature line, but this is strengthening at this moment in time. So that the regular bearish divergence is still looking pretty strong in the Bitcoin chart. And also another price pattern which we haven't talked about, because it's just started to form in the past 24-48 hours or so, is this head and shoulders pattern. Now, obviously here you can see the head was rejected right on the 200-week moving average, and I kind of want to show you this trend line. Now, you may be looking at this and thinking, you know, hey, have I just drawn this trend line for the head and shoulders right now? No, if we come over to the weekly time frame, you can see that this is the macro downtrend for Bitcoin. So this head and shoulders trend line has actually been in place since the 8th of November, and we're now, you know, sitting just above this crucial bear market descending line of resistance, which we're kind of lollygagging on right now, deciding whether we're going to go bull market or whether we're going to come back into the bear market. But you can see this right shoulder is potentially being formed on this. We've got a beautiful left shoulder. We've got a head up here, round about the 25,000. We've broken back down, and now it looks like we're having a sharp move up to form this shoulder. And if this does end up being a head and shoulders pattern, then this right shoulder coming back down may be just as brutal as this move back up. We talked about in our most recent video talking about the Bitcoin decision time, we were obviously entering some shorts over on the altcoin market. I am, like I said, just entering a Bitcoin short at this moment in time. I did warn, be careful. If you are a bear, don't be a late bear into this market. And with this sharp uptick in the price action, this has just given us a opportunity to short the Bitcoin market, which once again, we'll talk about a little bit later on in the video. If we are looking at the price target for this head and shoulders pattern, if we do break down somewhere around about this level, you can see this price target may take us back down to 16,200. And this is a price target we will also mention at least one more time in this video. So while we are continuing on from here, let's move on to our next chart. If we do look at the daily time frame, let me get rid of these oscillators. We will be looking at these in a different chart in a second. We were talking about this price target down here. Once again, 16,300, 16,200, a very similar price target to what we just looked at with the head and shoulders pattern. We were talking about on the channel how this was looking like a BART pattern, a huge run up, a spiky top consolidation right here. We've had a meltdown, and now we might be forming that last spike before having a failed move equals a fast move in the opposite direction, coming all the way down to 16,300. Now, we did draw something similar to this with a slightly lower bounce over on the chart. It looks like we have bounced, obviously not because of TA, because of the news that came out that the US government was going to guarantee these deposits on SVB. However, if we do come over to Bitcoin, this is not a new phenomenon. If we do come all the way back to our first example, you can see we formed a BART pattern over here, spiky top, spiky top, spiky top. You could see an absolute meltdown happening in these markets. A lot of people might have been thinking, hey, you know, the BART pattern was going to come all the way down very quickly, but we formed this last throw over spike right here before melting back down to the downside over here. You can see we formed a BART pattern with a price target of 39,500. We had a huge spike to the upside, spiky head top consolidation, spiky head, spiky head. We started melting back down to the price target just before we came down to this price target. We formed one last spike all the way down here before coming down and fulfilling this price target. And right now, do I think this move right here is going to be any different? I think this is going to be the same thing that we've seen in the past few patterns. And you can also see Bitcoin is now trading at 23,100. So we are right at the cusp of the POC at this moment in time, trading right at the top of this big area of volume in the markets. Now, if we are moving on from here, I also do want to show you in the higher time frames. So do bear in mind, once again, a lot of confluence around about 16,300, 16,200. If we come over to the Chicago Mercantile Exchange futures, you may know this as the CME futures, we form a lot of price gaps over on here, and a lot of the time they fill. You can see over here, all of the price gaps that are filled are in green. You can see we formed a price gap down here at 19,995. I quite recently deleted this as to not confuse you on the new price gap that we formed, but you can see we filled this price gap. If we zoom back, if we come over to the weekly time frame, you can see we only have one other price gap that we haven't filled to the upside round about 29,000. We do also have a price gap around about 53,000. Let's talk about that coming into the next bull run. Boom, boom. I'll add these back in a second. But you can see, you know, we had a price gap right here. We filled this price gap. We had a price gap right here at 32,000. New top. We came down and filled this one. We had a price target, a price gap over here at 23,000. We filled this one. We had a price gap. You can't see it here on the weekly, but we had a price gap on the daily at 18,400. We filled this one. We've also got some unfilled price gaps all the way down here. But most of the time when you find us, you know, moving up or moving down too quickly, we make these price gaps and we always come back to fill them. So Bitcoin has just created a new price gap with a price target right down here at 20,300, which I do believe at some point soon after we fulfill, you know, this head and shoulders, that we are going to move back down to 20,320 and fill this price gap. And in terms of the divergence which is going on the stock market right now, like we talked about for the past 3 days, Bitcoin is pumping. From the candle body opening, it is up 16% at this moment in time in the past 3 days. Coming over to the S&P 500 though, you can see in the past 3 days, we're down 3.6%. You know, if you're a Bitcoiner, you may be saying, hey, 3.6%, that's not a big move. For the S&P 500, this is a meltdown. So the S&P 500 is breaking down very strongly. If we look at this chart over here, you can see this bear market resistance. We tapped against it, tapped against it, tapped against it, tapped against it, had a throw over, broke back down, formed an uptrending line of support. We had support, 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 resistance, resistance, this was resistance, and we are melting to the downside. The futures market also had a pump when we found out that Silicon Valley was going to get bailed out, but since then they are in a absolute bleed out. You can see, where were we opening on Monday? You can see over on Sunday, this is where we got that confirmation that we were going to be getting bailed out. We had that huge pump up into early Monday morning, and since then you can see the futures market is continuing back down. EMA ribbons are bearish, 4-hour EMA ribbons are bearish, daily EMA ribbons have just flipped bearish. So the stock market is absolutely melting down to the downside right now. So while the stock market is melting down, Bitcoin is pumping. So we're seeing a huge divergence take place in the equity market and the Bitcoin market at this moment in time. And of course, before we do talk about this trade, you can see the addresses with more than 1,000 Bitcoin. We haven't got new lows on here, but since we had this whole fiasco about the banking sector, they have started to sell off even more. We're one address away from making new bear market lows in terms of what the whales are doing. And because of this, when we go over to the Bitcoin ratio of retail to institutional addresses, today, or yesterday rather, they pushed up and made a new all-time high, indicative that once again, this is another retail-driven rally, and it probably will not last long. So With all that being said, I am currently sitting in a Bitcoin trade. I have entered down here at 22,400. You can see we have started to move up a little bit at this moment in time. So I am going to be doubling down on this trade, putting another entry point right up here at 24,000. Both of these are going to be 10x leverages. We've got overhead resistance from this previous top at 25,000. All of these bearish patterns, bark patterns, CME gaps to fill to the downside, head and shoulders, a lot of signals that we should be moving back down to the downside. So, with all that said, especially the divergence that's happening in the S&P 500, I'm doubling down, entering 2 Bitcoin trades. At this moment in time, I am sitting in a trade from 22,400, and I also am going to be setting another entry point up here at 24,000 on another 10x leverage, lowering my liquidation from 22,400. So this is currently what I've got for you. I'm entering 2 Bitcoin shorts, 10x leverage on both of these. I see a lot of bearish signs. Whales are selling, retail is buying. Not much volume is coming into these markets though. We're seeing lots of overextensions right now. Divergences from the stock market, CME gaps to the downside, bark patterns, head and shoulders, bearish divergence really forming at this moment in time. So for all of these reasons, my friends, I am entering 2 different Bitcoin shorts, 10x leverage. Best of luck if you're entering these. But for today, that is all I've got. Once again, 24,000 on a 10x leverage, 22,400 on a 10x leverage. I am shorting this pump at this moment in time. So for today, my friends, that's all I've got. As always, if you do enjoy my content, let me know down below by leaving a like and a comment. Share the videos with your friends. If you want more of my posts, charts, memes, and economic data, feel free to come and join me over on Twitter at 618_cowboy, and come and join me over on Discord. I will leave the link to this down below. Also, you can find it on my YouTube channel. If you click on about, you can see my links for Twitter, Discord, Instagram, and the merch store. All of that is down below for you. So for today, that's all I've got. It's been your boy Cowboy Trades. I'm out. Peace.